Welcome to Affaircare's podcast. This month of January, we're going over our little series about helping kids survive an affair. And the whole series is about what you can do to help your children when you have found that your spouse is committing adultery, and how to help them deal with what's going on. Obviously, we've gone over quite a bit in the past some of the things that adults can do to help end the affair, and then how to reconcile after the affair. And last week we went over the ideal, which is to say, where we should be starting from with our kids. And here, the idea with the first part of our series was just so that we kind of know, what we wish we were starting from, so to speak. What would be the ways to honor God and please Him, so that we can also identify maybe some things we might need to work on from the start for helping our kids deal with this. Maybe some beginning steps to honor our commitment to our children. In the second part of our little series today, we're going to go over what do the children need to do. And in this part of our series, I'm going to go over, I think it's 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it is. There's 5 little steps or things that the children are going to need to process, if you will, when there is an affair going on between, in the mom and dad's marriage. The main thing that I'm just going to kind of put out there or just state is that children obviously are not adults. So I do not expect you to burden your children with the adult issues that are going on. They do not understand the fullness of what marriage means, or even sometimes what a relationship is. They may have little crushes. Even when they're teenagers, they may have had a boyfriend or girlfriend. They do not understand the totality of what the commitment of marriage is. So you would not burden them with all of the details of adultery. They don't have the tools to deal with it, and they wouldn't understand it. But that's not to say that we shouldn't tell the truth. So I'm going to go over some of the things that are very common that children kind of need to deal with and process what things that they're going to need help with when their mom or their dad is having an affair. The 5 things that children need to do: they need to understand what's going on. This is going to be a very confusing time for them. And so one of the things that they're going to need help with is understanding what is going on. Okay? Number 2, they need to deal with the losses. One of the gigantic costs of adultery that people don't think of when they're just being unfaithful is that everyone is going to lose things that are dear to them. There's major losses. And the children are going to lose things as well. So they will need help dealing with that. They're going to have to deal with anger. And because of the fact that between mom and dad, the hurt is so gigantic, they may not have seen great models of how to be angry themselves. They may not have the tools yet how to be angry in a good way, frankly. So we're going to need some help with that. And then they're going to need, the 4th one, they're going to need some help dealing with their guilt feelings. And finally, they're going to need some help with accepting the finality of what's going on. Now, we do not go into, when one spouse has an affair, we do not go into it under the assumption that the marriage is definitely going to end in divorce. In fact, we, at Affaircare, we try to encourage people, if it's at all possible, to reconcile and to repair their marriage. And the first step of that, of course, is ending the affair. But either way, there's going to be some changes that are, it won't be the way it was. And the kids are going to need to deal with that finality of it's never going back the way it was. So let's go into each one of those little 5 things. in a little bit of detail. I don't want to go crazy here because you know me, I tend to be long-winded. So, okay, let's start with number one. The first one, it's understand what's going on. There are two schools of thought here. I will touch on each of them and then tell you, my thought here. The one school is what is kind of commonly out there in the world, which is, ooh, they're children, don't tell them anything, or if you do tell them anything, tell them something crazy like, oh, mom and dad just can't live together anymore, or, that kind of, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. I think that is enormously disrespectful to your children, and they're not stupid. They live with you, and they know something's going on, and that it's major. So what's going to be going on in their little minds is that, well, first of all, they haven't lived as long as we have, adults, so they may not have anything to base it on, but they will see that you guys are fighting, they will see crying, and they're going to know that it's big, and they're going to know that life is changing, and they're going to be confused about it. So I encourage, honestly, in every relationship, here at Affaircare, we encourage honesty and transparency. Now, as I've mentioned, we don't encourage you to lay the burden of every detail on your children. That would be too much for them. That is inappropriate. We do encourage you, though, to be honest with your children in an age-appropriate way. When do you tell them? We encourage you to tell them right away. As soon as there is, as soon as the kid is it's concrete, I guess, in a way, if you will, you want to let the kids know what's going on. This will reduce their stress and anxiety. And here's why. I'll just be blunt. If you don't tell them what's going on, or you say something lame like that, oh, your mom and dad can't live together anymore, that confuses the child. They're learning two different messages at once. One is, here's the bully at school, and you tell them that they have to, look, you have to just keep on going to school, and you have to put up with the bully. Then they're going to think, well, then why can't mom and dad put up with each other at home? If you're telling me I have to do that and I'm just a kid, they're adults. They should be able to do it, right? It's confusing them. They're getting two messages. What you want to be is consistent, right? And so if you explain to them in an age-appropriate way that, moms and dad, I personally believe moms and dads should not have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And I have found out that your father or mother had a girlfriend, so that doesn't, I don't believe that's right. You can talk to your parent about what they think. I'm going to tell you what I think. And since that I believe that that's wrong, that's why we are arguing, is because we disagree on it. This is going to make sense to a kid. They're going to go like, oh, well, this is a sort of major deal. You guys disagree on a sort of major moral thing, and you know what I mean? This will make sense to a kid. And it's also consistent with what you've been trying to teach them on how they have to forgive people, or if they have to share. And then here, if you tell a kid you have to share, but then you go around and you can't share with your own husband and wife, that confuses them. Whereas if you tell them, but tell them in an age-appropriate way, okay? You're not going to tell a 2-year-old what you're going to tell maybe a 17-year-old, right? A 17-year-old has better capacity for understanding a little about relationships. They're not mature enough to know everything about marriage, but they would know about boyfriend and girlfriend level at least, right? A 2-year-old may not understand much at all, but you could explain it to them in a way that you think, God told mommies and daddies to just love each other, and that you and their daddy are disagreeing on that, or something like that, and they might understand that a little bit, right? They're 2. But it will give them an opportunity to understand what's going on, and also let them raise questions. Now, what I find, generally speaking, with kids is that you tend, as an adult, you tend to explain way more than the kid is scared about. So let them ask a question, explain it to them in as few words as possible, at their level, and then ask them, do you have any questions? And then listen to what they ask. They're going to ask you, and answer their questions. Usually what they ask about is, does this mean I'm going to have to leave my room? And you'll say, no, for now, until we can work it out, you'll be able to stay in your room. And then they'll go, okay, thanks for telling me, bye. And they're done. That's what they were afraid about. So this is what kids need. First part, they need to understand what's going on. And if you're honest with them, they will understand what's going on, even if it's hard for them. Okay, number 2, the kids need to deal with losses. Now, as a loyal spouse would know, the cost of infidelity is that everyone has major losses. We are going to lose things that are dear to us. Even if you and your spouse reconcile, one of the things you will lose is that wonderful, I personally think it's a little bit naive, but that wonderful feeling of being the only one, and me and my spouse, that will never happen to us. You're going to lose that. That almost like that innocence of I was his first, he was my first, and we've never been with anyone else. That kind of thing. So even if you do reconcile, you lose that. But kids also go through losses. They may live apart from their parent for a while. And you know, as an adult, how hard it is for you to be apart from your spouse. How hard do you think it is for a kid to be apart from their dad or their mom? Maybe their mom has to live somewhere else. And the mom is maybe bad-mouthing the dad because she's having an affair and she's upset and blah, blah, blah. But the kid has to live away from their parent, their mom. You know what I mean? This is a loss for them. Or maybe they're going to have to move. And they're going to lose their school, their friends, their playground, you know, the kids they play bike with. The kids have losses too. We need to help the children to deal with the losses that they're going to be facing. One of the things that I find that I personally advise people is to let them have a voice in the adjustments and the changes that are being made. If they are going to have to move, maybe like one of the things I did, I'll just share my story. My kids and I, when my first husband and I divorced, the kids and I we had to, you know, in the divorce, we sold the marital home and split it and blah, blah, blah. So the kids and I had to move. And I told them, I said, well, look, let's, I hate leaving this house, but let's get together and decide what things are important to us and what things are things, we could probably live without them. And what they decided, and I thought this was great, is it was important to us. They each wanted their own room or their own space that they could kind of like, you know, go alone and close the door and be on their own. Do you know what I mean? I thought that was great. They wanted a place that kept pets because they were like, I've already lost my mom and dad. I've already lost my house. I've already lost my school. I don't want to lose my pets too. And I was like, I think that makes sense to me. And then they were like, it'd be nice if we had a swimming pool nearby because that is kind of fun for us. And I was like, okay. So we went off then after that, and we went, you know, like shopping around in place, and we looked for a place that had enough rooms for each of them to have their own room, that accepted all of our pets, and we had a dog and 2 cats at the time. And if we could find someplace that had a pool, that'd be nice. Well, guess what? We found a place like that. And then they felt like they had a voice in the changes. Even though they may not have liked them, at least they were able to kind of be involved in the change, and it helped them deal with it a bit. Another thing I kind of recommend is to let them see your reactions or your emotions, as long as it's really clear that they don't have to fix you. So here in this example, if they see that you're sad, maybe they see you cry, it can let them know that if they feel sad, it's okay to feel sad. Does that make sense? Like, hey, guess what? Mom feels sad, and thus it must be okay for me to feel sad too. As long as they understand that you don't expect them to fix your sadness, you don't expect them to make you happy, blah, 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 you know. Let them see that feeling something is okay. Note to self, when children are under stress like this, when they are losing big things, they often will regress a bit. If your child is 4, for example, they may suddenly have like a 2-year-old for a while. This is pretty normal, and I just wanted to kind of throw it out there when we're talking about the losses, because if you see your kid suddenly start sucking their thumb again, or if you see your 13-year-old suddenly start acting like a 9-year-old, it's actually kind of normal. That's the way that one of the ways that kids deal with losses. And then another possibility that sometimes can be helpful for a kid is to help them say goodbye. For example, remember I was telling you the story about our house, and we had to move, and we loved our house. It was, you know how you look for the right house. We found the exact right house. We loved it, and then there was the divorce, and we lost this house we loved. So one of the things that we did was the week we were moving, the kids all helped with packing and whatnot, and they were involved with that, as well as finding the new place. But we also did a little experiment the day before. We did a little... we called it the funeral for the house, and we had a little funeral to say goodbye to our house that we loved, and we each wrote the house like a eulogy, and we read what we wrote, and then we burned it and saved the ashes, and we kept the ashes and we put that into the ground. So it was like that has been put to rest now, and in a weird way, it sort of helped the kids visualize like this part's just done. And I think that helped them to deal with it, that was the loss, but then the new part was this new house. Okay, so next we have the third thing that children need to do, and that is dealing with anger. This can be a really tough one because typically during, when one spouse is having an affair, the adults are not really modeling how to deal with anger well. You usually have the loyal spouse pretty much flipping out because it hurts so much, and then the disloyal spouse, screaming and yelling and blaming, and there's lots of fighting, and so consequently the kids see, well, gee, mom and dad are angry, and they don't know they feel angry because they're losing things, and so they don't know how to express it well. They don't have the toolbox to deal with that real well. So the first thing I would just recommend is don't judge your kids for being angry. One of the common little mistakes that sometimes that parents will do is to say, you're bad if you're angry. Well, the parents were just angry. So again, you got that confusing messaging going on with the kids. I'm not saying that anger is a good thing, but more like they may most likely have just seen you not handle it well with your own spouse, and you're grown-ups. So if they get angry and don't handle it real well, at least give them just the kind of courtesy, if you will, to say, look, I made the same mistake too. That's not a great way to handle it, but I don't want you to feel like a horrible thing just because let's just talk about this anger thing, okay? Does that make sense? Don't judge the kids because they got angry. Yes, tell them that they not to let their anger turn into sin. But yeah, if they can see that you also go like, wow, you know what, I didn't handle it well and I'm a grown-up, I would not expect more out of you, but that doesn't mean it's it's still right. We both did wrong, so how about if we both talk to God about it? See what I mean? That you're modeling then for the kids that if you do the wrong thing, the way to fix it is to stop doing it and then ask for forgiveness from God. So, yep, the number one thing you can do to help your kids deal with anger, of course, is to model good anger management for your kids. If you are having difficulties with your own anger, you might want to honestly pick up some anger management classes. Honestly, I like going, just go straight to the Bible. And it doesn't ever say there, don't be angry. What it says is, don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. And it says stuff about, having your anger turn into sin. This is when you're raging and screaming and stuff. But Jesus went in the temple and he saw them selling and buying and turning the temple into a place of the market, and he got angry. And so obviously anger is okay. He's the Son of God. I think the thing we need to do is to show our kids, here's how, when you are angry, here's how you deal with it. When they're younger, one thing that's real typical, that's kind of easy and fun, is to help the kids say, what is, to help them figure out what's triggering your anger, what is to sort of act like anger is this other being, like it's this other part of them. You maybe can ask them, what does your anger look like, and have them draw a picture of it. And a lot of times you'll see it looks like a bowl, or it looks red, or it's, whatever. And then it's like this other entity, and they kind of don't take it so harshly that they are bad. You know what I'm saying? And then you can talk to them about, say, okay, now what is it that makes you start to be like that? It's like the Hulk, right? When he gets angry, he turns into the Hulk. Well, what is it that starts turning you into the Hulk? And then you can find the anger triggers. Likewise, do the same thing on yourself and let them see that you doing this. Like, I notice when I get angry, it's when this or that happens, and then they can see, oh yeah, that happens when I get it too. See if they can recognize their anger. A lot of times, what happens, the kids are hard for this one, but if they notice that they have clenched their fist, clenched their teeth, and their face is turning red, oh, I might be getting angry. And then you could also say to them, hey, did you ever notice you hold your breath when you get angry? Maybe the next time they'll catch themselves holding their breath beforehand. Or you could say, hey, I've noticed you're holding your breath. Is anger sneaking up on you? And then that helps them to recognize it within themselves. And likewise, again, keep modeling that for your kids, yourself. Then talk to them about strategies about how to handle their anger, especially strategies like speaking up in a way that is like just making a statement. A strategy like count to 10 before you talk so that you're not speaking in anger. A strategy like if you're really having trouble, go ahead and walk away. Maybe tell the person you're walking away. And if you give them some options, then let them practice them. So, for example, if they're talking to you and they start getting angry and they go, I need to walk away, let them do what they just said so that they can practice what they are trying, some of the little anger strategies. Now, speaking just as a regular mom, I know 3 things that tend to help kids deal with anger are to provide them with some physical outlets, to use some closeness, hugging and that kind of thing, and to show some affection, catching them while they're good. So, for example, providing physical outlets, give them a place where they can run around a little bit. Sometimes just that will let them run off the steam that they have. It helps a little sometimes. Sometimes it'll rile them up. So deal with your kid as an individual, not just, whatever. Provide them with some physical outlets if that seems to be something that helps them run off steam versus gathering up steam. Closeness and hugging and affection. To me, sometimes the kids just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then you give them a big old hug and kind of keep them in the hug for a little while. At first they may fight it, but then after a little bit, sometimes it's just what they needed at the moment, and they didn't know how to put it in words. So let them just put it into a hug. And sometimes that will help. You'll see. You know your kid. And then lastly, catch them being good is because if they're angry and they're trying something new, if they clench their teeth, they said, hey, I clenched my teeth, I might be getting angry. Catch them at that. Catch them being good. And that will help them deal with their anger. Help them do a better job at it. Okay, the fourth little thing that we have that kids need to do when they're one of their parents is having an affair is to deal with guilt feelings. Now, this is, to me, it's one of the weird miracles of children. I love kids. Somehow or another, kids, when they're really younger, elementary school kids, they still sort of have what I call magical thinking, right? Where they think they can wish things and it'll come true a little bit, a little bit like that still. Somehow or another, they will work it around that all this is going on because of them. It is their fault in some way or another. And usually it's somehow a magical thing that happened, like they wished Daddy would go away, or I wish Mommy and Daddy would stop fighting, and now all of a sudden you're separated. Stuff like that. They will think, oh, it's all my fault, and now feel guilt over those kind of things. So one of the things that is really helpful with the kids is to recognize, as adults, learn to recognize when the kids are having those kind of like fear or guilt kind of feelings, thought, when they act in fear, when they're acting in guilt. See if you can recognize it, because then that's the time when you're going to need to talk to them, hey, I happen to notice that you did this, and I'm wondering if you're feeling afraid, or you feel guilty, and you can talk to them about it. Be sure to let them know it's not their fault. Now, I personally dislike it when the parents do the thing with, they get to, we still love you, blah, blah, blah. I know this is a little bit harsh, but it's true. If you really loved your kids, you'd stop having the stupid affair and work on building a strong marriage so that they have a stable family. So don't tell me that. But what you can tell them is that what's going on is not because of them. They're pretty much innocents in this one, caught up, it's like when people are caught up in a tornado. They didn't cause the tornado, it just happened. In this instance, they didn't cause this affair. They're just caught up in the aftermath of the storm. They don't need to blame their parent on it, but it's usually helpful in a way for them to understand morals and values. If they understand, look, they did something wrong, they could have chosen to say, I did it wrong, and do the right thing. That actually kind of helps kids to realize that right and wrong are, it's true. But make sure that they understand this is not like a guilt thing, and listen to what they have to say. Listen to if they feel like they made a wish and it made their parents go away, and then help them to see how that was not the cause of the problem now. Listen with some empathy, because this is where your kid's heart is. Listen with some, I call it empathetically, and with some sympathy, because this is somebody you love, and they are having a tough time. So help them to deal with this. Hear what they're saying. Hear what it is that they think maybe they did that cause it, and help them to see that was not the case. Now, if the kids mention something, like maybe they think their parent is going away because they were naughty, right? Sometimes kids will think something like that. It is a very great idea at that point here's a great life lesson for kids. If you think that part of it was because you were naughty, it's okay to apologize for being naughty. Get that straightened out. That is not what caused this, but when you do something wrong, it is okay to apologize and ask for forgiveness. And another thing you can teach them is that when they feel guilty and sad, if you've been teaching them about Jesus dying for their sins, then they can look to God for peace. And you can say, look, I realize that you're little, but you can pray to God and He will listen to you. And He does bring us peace. So this is the kind of time when you can help your kids to turn to God. If there was something that they did, it is okay to say, look, if you feel upset about that, it's okay to ask for forgiveness. You can make amends, so to speak. But you're teaching them in their, at their age appropriate level that when you do the wrong thing, the way to fix it is to stop that, apologize and do the right thing, right? Okay, the last thing that the kids need to do is to accept the finality of what's going on, that it will never be the way that was. A lot of times, even adults, they think, if I repair my marriage, what I'm going to do is make it the way it was. And I'm just going to tell you, it is never going to be the way it was. Even if you guys do reconcile, which that is the hope, and that is what we would encourage you to have the courage to work for, it will be different. From that point forward, the kids may see that you are imperfect and you're not on this pedestal of perfection that they used to have you on. Partly that's because when you're a kid, you think your dad is just the greatest thing in the world and your mom is the most beautiful woman in the world, right? So they may see you as human beings. Due to certain things that occurred during the affair, there may be financial consequences that, even if you reconcile, the financial consequences will endure. There may be some reputation loss, like maybe you were involved in such and such a ministry at church, and now you've had to step down, and now the family people look at the family kind of funny. It's not going to be the way it was. And so part of their thing is that the kids are going to have to accept the fact that they can't magically, make it go back the way it was. And you, as an adult, can help them to accept that moving forward does not mean that it's bad. It's just different. It's not the same. It will be but anytime you move forward, the future is always as we move forward, it's not the way it was. Things change. So help them to come to grips with that. Usually the way that you do almost everything, which is being loving to them, being encouraging, and always constantly turning them to godliness and doing what God wants them to do. Help them accept that by turning to God and helping them understand that God can help them heal. So these are the things that I would say the major things that children need to deal with when one of their parents is having an affair. If you have any comments, I welcome them. Please add them as comments to the blog right here, or in the YouTube if you're watching it on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, just go ahead and you can send me an email at affaircare@gmail.com, and I would be happy to answer as best as I can. And likewise, I welcome if you have any questions. Cool, I'll try to answer. But if you disagree, or if you have more things that you think the kids also need to deal with, add them. The reason we're all here is to talk about this and to go over it as thoroughly as we can. So thanks for listening. Next week, we'll be going over some of the common pitfalls that parents do with their kids that are not helpful for their children, that can cause more harm as the kids are trying to survive an affair. And then we will also go over a few ways to get out of the little pitfalls. But it's going to be a list of the common pitfalls, and we'll be going over that next week. And then the last week of January, we'll have our last one, which is letting God heal the broken heart. Thanks so much for listening. Look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye.